Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever or wherever you're listening to or watching us. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I am your host, Michael Clifford. Joining me today is the Scorpion to my Sub-Zero, your single entry soul stealer, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, bud?
Pretty good. What was I think Mortal Kombat 3 for PlayStation 2? The guy who threw his hat goes, "Let go of my ego." It sounds like he's saying, "Let go of my ego." I can't stop thinking about that today after watching that Mortal Kombat preview. I'm pretty pumped.
Okay, I think you're thinking of Kung Lao. I don't remember the Lego my ego thing.
It sounded like you're saying "Let go of my ego," like the waffle commercial.
Well, I mean, they used to just yell so much random stuff in the old Mortal Kombat games, like Raiden, whenever he used to do his jump or whatever. Yeah. So, Lego My Ego definitely sounds like something you could hear in a Mortal Kombat game from the 90s. But we're not here to talk about Mortal Kombat today, although I wish we were because that movie looks sick. We're here to talk about the NHL. Let's get to that by talking about last night's slate. Last night's slate, some people tried to fade the chalk, the Edmonton being the chalk, and I was one of those people. And it's a reminder of what happens when you fade Edmonton chalk. Things can go very poorly very quickly. Connor McDavid, goal, 2 assists. Jesse Puljujarvi, goal and an assist. You might have had Kyler Yamamoto for some added power play exposure. He had an assist with a couple shots. Good night for Edmonton. Was it a good night for Josh Harris in the DFS streets?
I actually cashed without having Edmonton, but I got pretty lucky. I used Barkov. I used the Stars, but then I used someone on this. Who was it? Norris. I think I used Norris as a one-off, and he kind of got there, donked me into the cash. But yeah, I mean, Edmonton wasn't really a slate breaker because Draisaitl only had 3 shots on goal. But if you wanted to be at the top of the GPPs, you really needed Connor McDavid.
Yeah, for sure. Because there wasn't a lot of 3-point performances last night. Like I think he was the only one.
Yeah.
So he coming in as a high scorer on the night, you probably needed him to succeed. Minnesota, Arizona. I know a few people, myself included, were pretty high on Arizona. They didn't look very good last night, but really neither did Minnesota. I don't know how much of that game you watched. I only watched the second period, but it just looked like a game between two teams that just didn't want to play hockey last night. And I'm wondering if we don't see more of that moving forward, because obviously these are two teams that are still playing for something because they have playoff implications, but a lot of teams don't. There's only really 2 playoff spots up for grabs in the entire NHL. So are you worried about teams maybe experimenting with lines or cutting down on ice time or bringing in new players or just generally not even caring over the next 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, the younger teams, they're going to start doing some weird stuff, call up their guys from the taxi squads, give their young guys a shot. Would actually maybe good for DFS because there'd be some good young guys you can use that are cheap. But you look at these teams like that game last night, the only line that really looked involved was the Eriksson Ek line, but they're always like that. So you got to look for these teams like the Rangers. They still have something to play for, even though they're not in the play. I know there's only 2 playoff spots technically up for grabs, but there are some live teams that think they're still live. Maybe in the last week or 2, it's going to get pretty choppy and pretty bad, but I mean, it's something to take note. But I think it's a good thing for DFS because, we can look to take advantage of those spots. Maybe the public isn't onto it yet.
Yeah, and that brings us actually to a question from YouTube. We have a super chat from Clayton. Clayton, thanks for giving us that super chat. Always good to see you. He asked, for teams who are locked into playoffs, will we see a change in top line minutes for teams out in infusion of young talent? We just did talk about that a little bit, but I think the ice time thing is something that probably should be brought up. I think there's one team we're going to talk about later, and it's Pittsburgh, and it doesn't seem they're really cutting their ice time, but there's another team, I think it was Tampa Bay, that really seems that they're cutting down their ice time on their top players, which makes sense. Tampa Bay's they haven't had a playoff spot locked up for a month, but they've effectively had a playoff spot locked up for a month, right? I'm pretty sure Yanni Gord, I'll go double check when you're talking, but I'm pretty sure Yanni Gord leads their forwards in ice time per game over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So obviously Yanni Gord is not their top forward, even with Stamkos and Kucherov out, but it kind of shows that I think they're probably going to give more ice time. Teams that are way out front, like I think Vegas can clinch a playoff spot here tonight. Colorado is obviously going to clinch a playoff spot here not too long. Tampa Bay and Carolina, Florida, those teams as well. Do you see, we could easily foresee those teams just cutting back big time on their superstar minutes, right? Bound from 2021 to 17, 18.
Oh yeah, especially teams like Vegas, Colorado, and Tampa. They would have to lose every game and something else go drastically wrong for them to miss. So they'll probably cut back a little bit. I know McKinnon likes to get his minutes, so he may still play over 20. But teams like Pittsburgh, they're not completely guaranteed in yet. The Rangers are still hanging in. If the Bruins, the Islanders, or the Penguins start to falter, the Rangers could hop them. So you may see some competitive minutes until the Rangers falter, it gets closer or whatever, someone gets mathematically eliminated. But it's definitely something that we need to look at going forward. I'd imagine the teams that are on the bubble are still going to obviously play their guys. But the Vegases, the Colorados, and the Tampas of the world, you can start playing those depth lines a little bit more because they'll probably see more minutes.
Yeah, and I looked it up while you were talking there. Your Gord isn't at the top, but he's number 2 in ice time, and no forward since the trade deadline is playing over 18 minutes a game for Tampa Bay, and that's with Kucherov and Stamkos out. So obviously they're not even trying to. They're still trying to win games, but they're not really, putting, Braden Point's not going to play 22 minutes a night, game in and game out, right? So just something to keep in mind as we get moving towards these games. While you guys are here, if you could throw us a like and especially subscribe. The subscriptions really help grow the channel, helps combat the algorithm, helps us get to the top of that algorithm, and really keeps these shows coming. We have we're running it seems like 12 hours of shows almost every day now. So throw us a like, a subscribe, a notification bell is there if you want to get notified whenever we do get on the air. And today's show is sponsored by Jock Market. Let's talk about this show sponsor. Jock Market has turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange. Jock Market allows you to buy and sell shares of players in real time for real money with guaranteed payouts for all shares at the end of each night. With daily markets for NBA, NHL, and PGA, you can make real money every hour, every minute, every second of any match or game. Use the pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite players, then buy, sell, or hold them during the game based on your own analysis. Download the app to get started and use our exclusive Awesemo promo code AWESEMO-NHL20 for a $20 bonus on your first deposit. This is an exclusive offer only for the Awesemo community, so make sure to take advantage of it today. That's our show sponsor, Jock Market, and the promo code is AWESEMO-NHL20 for a $20 bonus on your first deposit. All right, we got 7 games ahead of us. Let's get to these games. The first one we're going to talk about, Josh just brought them up. The New York Rangers with a 2.5 implied goal total are going into New York to face the Islanders, and the New York Islanders have a 3.0 implied goal total. It's going to be Igor Shesterkin for the Rangers. The Islanders aren't confirmed, but I'm pretty sure Sorokin started on the weekend, so I think it'll be Varlamov here tonight, but that is not confirmed just yet. All right, resident Rangers fan, let us know what you like from both sides here.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how the Islanders are going to match with Michael Dal-Cole on that second line. Maybe the Barzal line goes out against the Zibanejad line because Zajak's up there. From a Ranger side, it's really tough to say let's stack against the Islanders because they are a good defensive team. They don't take many penalties, and the Rangers are really pricey. Panarin is 8,300, Strome is 6,200, Blackwell, Captain Colin Blackwell is up to 4,000. So that second line is pretty expensive to stack. That top line is good. They're really pricey as well. I don't know if I want to stack that top line at that price going into the Islanders. Their ownership is super low, so if you want to do it in MME, I think you can have a couple. But really, I'm probably going to be underweight on the Rangers tonight. I may have I don't know, I may take if I'm trying to get in an expensive power play stack, I may have a one-off Capo Caco or a one-off Alexis Lafreniere, something like that. But I'm probably off the top 6 tonight. And then on the Islanders side, the Rangers have been pretty good defensively. Igor Shesterkin has been very, very good recently. But that top line can be had defensively. That kids line can be had defensively. So if that JG Pajot line is going to go out against Hedel, Lafreniere, and Kakko, I like that third line tonight. Beauvillier, Pajot, and Wahlstrom. I think you can – they're a good filler. They're cheap. You can use them in however you want. I think you can do an MME. I think you do it in a limited number of lineups. But I really like that third line. That second line with Michael Dal Colle, if he is there, well, you never know. They might change up the lineups a little bit. I don't – the Nelson Palmieri combo is fine. If you want to put in Dal Colle, sure. And that top line is okay. I prefer Palmieri up there instead of Zajac, but you can stack that top line. It's more of an MME thing for me. This game's mostly MME, without except for that third line is a nice filler.
Yeah, I want to talk about the line matching real quick because you did bring up Dal Colle, and he was playing with Bailey and Nelson back in March. When that happened, they weren't using the Bailey Nelson against the opposing top line. So I think I don't know exactly how the line matching is going to break down, but it seems pretty safe to say that Islanders 2 isn't going to match up against Rangers 1. So at least we can get that out of the way. So then it's going to be one of Islanders 1 or Islanders 3 against Rangers 1. And I think those aren't good matchups I don't think they're good matchups for either side, honestly. I think, you mentioned how good the Islanders are defensively, and they are really good defensively. One thing I want to mention, I think I brought this up on a show last week. They're starting to play at a higher pace. They're still playing very well, but they're starting to trade chances a little bit more. And that's something that's interesting to us because the Islanders of 2 months ago were not trading chances. The Islanders of 2 months ago were playing lockdown defense and hoping to win every game 2-1. The Islanders of mid-April are playing different, and it breaks down in the numbers. 5.2 expected goals for plus goals against per 60 minutes over the last 3 weeks. And before that, it was 4.2. So really the pace has gone up nearly 25% over the last month. So I kind of like the Rangers here a little bit. I kind of agree with you that I think it would be more MME. I'm not sure I would get to them, in one lineup, but I'm kind of tempted because I think I'm going to play 1 to 3 here tonight. And I look at the ownership. Rangers 1, 1%, Rangers 2, under 1%. On a 7-game slate for a Rangers team that has been as good offensively as anybody else in the league for a month now, I kind of think it's worth the risk. So,
and they have to win.
Yeah, and that too, right? They're under the gun, to actually win some games. So, you don't have to worry about, Artemi Panarin only playing 17 minutes, like you might worry about Braden Point or something like that. Panarin's probably going to play 20 plus. And the Islanders have a bottom 10 penalty kill by expected goals against over the last month. They're just getting bailed out by their goalies. Now, they don't take a ton of penalties. You brought that up. They don't. But the penalty kill at least has fallen off. So playing at a higher pace, penalty kill falling off, Rangers playing well with no ownership. I think it's worth a Rangers stab here. I would go to Rangers 1. They've actually really turned around their play over the last month or so. On the blue line, Keandre Miller is a guy that kind of always pops out to me, but I think you said it on our last show lately, or our last show together last week, that his peripherals just haven't been there, and you're right about that. I think Jacob Trouba is a guy that we both agreed on last week. I think Jacob Trouba might be my focus here again in this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, his price is up to 5,600, but he does. I mean, he's not the best real life defender, but he's good for DFS. He blocks shots, puts shots on net. He gets power play 2 time. Obviously, if you're, you want to use Fox, that's fine. He's almost 7,000 though, so it's tough to really get him in. Trouba at 5,600 is more reasonable, and he shoots the puck more, boxes shots more. Fox is more of a, score sheet type of guy.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I'm coming from. It's really hard to pay up 6,800 for Fox, especially if you're stacking with Rangers 1, because those guys can get expensive. Kreider 53, Buchnevich at 66, so you're paying $12K just for your wingers, and then you're adding Mika Zibanejad, you're up to almost $20K. So it can get expensive. So like if you don't want to pay up 5,600 Trouba, like I understand that. I think you're fine just not using a defenseman at all. So that's kind of where I'm at in this one. In goal, Shesterkin at 7,500 is kind of like, I think I'd rather 71, 7,200, but he's been flat out one of the best goalies in the league this year.
Yeah. It does work. Like, I agree with you. The past two games against the Devils, the Rangers goalies kind of melted down in the third period, but I don't know. Igor's rested. The price is good. You know, this is a rivalry game, and the Rangers need to win. So, I like Igor tonight.
Yeah, I don't mind Igor Shesterkin at either. I might just correlate him in Rangers lineups, but don't mind him here tonight. All right, let's move it along. Let's get to our next game. Carolina with a 2.7 implied goal total. They're going to Tampa Bay. The Bolts have a 2.9 implied goal total. Alex Nedeljkovic was confirmed by the Hurricanes. There's no confirmation from Tampa Bay. The assumption is that it would be Curtis McElhinney because Andrei Vasilevsky started last night. The reason why I think there could be a little bit of a wrench in the standings here is Carolina, Florida, and Tampa Bay are all neck and neck in points. And the winner, whoever finishes with most points between those three, gets Nashville in the first round of the playoffs, and the loser gets to play the other team that they're playing with. So the first place team gets Nashville. Whoever doesn't finish first gets like Carolina or Florida or whomever. So getting first place in this division can be pretty important. So I think there's a chance they could actually go back to Vasilevsky here. But with the way they're treating their forwards, I suspect that it'll be McElhinney because I think they would much rather, like from their perspective, they'd rather have a rested Vasilevsky going up against Florida than a tired Vasilevsky going up against Nashville, right? So I think that's kind of the way I would look at it. So I'm going to assume McElhinney is starting here tonight. Martin Necas is a guy to watch for. He was injured in the game last night. Finished the game. Seems like he should play today, but that's something to watch for. You know, we'll get coach's comments in 3 hours and then, you know, at about 5:30 Eastern, and then we'll see warm up at about 6:30 Eastern to see exactly what's going on with him. But just a couple things to keep clear of. McElhinney and Necas possibly injured. All right, going to ask you what you like here because I think like the last game, there might be something on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get why it might be McElhinney, but it also could be Vasilevsky. But like, I don't think the Lightning care who they play in the first half because they're going to get Stamkos and Kucherov back. So you know, we'll have to see. It's a 7:00 game. We may get confirmation at 6:30, maybe at 6:55. The Lightning beats have been pretty bad with the Lightning confirmed goalie, but this is a redux of last night. The Gord Goodrow Coleman line is going to get the Aho Foss Svechnikov. Kind of takes me off the Carolina top line. If you want to, you know, if you're making 150, you want to have a handful of Carolina 1, that's fine. Carolina 2, Niederreiter is back up with Trocheck. If Necas is in, I kind of like that second line a little bit. They are pricey. I don't think I'd get to them in 1 to 3. I don't think the Carolina Hurricanes are going to be a priority for me on this slate. Just because of the unknown, like this is a back-to-back on the road. They are playing a good team. It could be Vasilevsky again. He didn't get much work yesterday. So there's a bunch of unknowns. If Necas is out, the lines may be who knows what. So I'm kind of off the Hurricanes tonight, and I'm not really on the Lightning either. They're more of an MME play for me. That top line still fully correlated on the power play. If you want to play them, I think that is perfectly fine. Their price is in check. Their ownership isn't anything spectacular, so I think you can do that. I'm off the Gord line because they're going to get the Aho Svechnikov matchup. I'm not a huge fan of the Kaloran Cirelli Johnson line. If you want to use Kaloran for power play 1, that's fine. But really, you know, this game I'm probably going to be off, and maybe if I was making 150, I'd have a handful of the top lines.
Yeah, that Coleman-Gord matchup against Stahl Niederreiter really takes me out of both of those lines. Like Gord, Coleman, Goodrow is one of those cheap third lines, cheap-ish third lines that I tend to go towards. They're probably out of play for me because with Niederreiter back on that Stahl line, it just makes it so much better as opposed to Martinook or somebody. So I'm out on Coleman and Gord, and I'm out on Niederreiter and Stahl. So then I look to the top lines because you're right. It looks like the top lines will probably face off against each other. And like I'm a big believer in Alex Barre-Boulet, but he hasn't looked that good in the first 3 games since he's been up there. He's been fine, but he doesn't look like we talk about Carter Verhaeghe and Jonathan Marchessault and all these guys at Tampa Bay Fines. He doesn't look like that player, at least not yet. And like, let's give him a little bit of a break here. We're playing in a pandemic season. It's his first 3 NHL games. He's stepping in right in a cup onto a cup contender that's missing some of its top players, so it can't be easy for him. But at the same time, they posted like a 46% expected goal share in their 3 games together, and their 3 games were against Florida and Carolina. So I don't imagine why their numbers would get any better in this matchup. So like, I could see having some interest in the Carolina top line. It's just, like you said, back-to-back on the road against Tampa Bay, and it might be Vasilevsky. And like, Tampa Bay's defense is probably the best in the league, right? So I'm probably out on the top line. I really like Martinook, Trocheck, Necas, because they're going to get that Killorn, Cirelli, Johnson matchup, and there's nothing that scares me about that matchup, like, at all. Like, Tyler Johnson, like, he has decent defensive numbers this year, but his offensive numbers are friggin' terrible. And Anthony Cirelli, wonderful, wonderful defensive player, still not quite a great offensive player. So I think Tampa line might struggle to generate some offense here. So I like Martinook, Trocheck, and Necas. It's just that we don't know if Necas is going to be healthy. So that's kind of the problem I'm running to in this game, is the one line that I really like, the Trocheck line, has a player that might be injured. So like, as of right now, I might not actually have anything out of this game, but I will say I do like that Trocheck Necas pairing, provided that Necas is healthy. So just watch for warmups. On the blue line, I think there might be a couple guys on both sides. Like, Tampa Bay, they've effectively gone to 5 defensemen. I think Luke Schenn is their 6th defenseman. He's playing like 8 or 9 minutes a game, and everybody else is playing like 20 to 22. So I think you can just kind of like, that kind of takes Victor Hedman out of the play for me, right? Because I don't think you're going to see too many 26, 27-minute games from Victor Hedman for the rest of the season. So Hedman's probably out. Hamilton's probably out at 7,200. Are there any other defensemen in this game that you like?
Chernak, McDonough, Savard, I think he definitely could play. Savard's still under 3,000. He played 22 minutes, I think, last night. So he's definitely in play. McDonough, like, it's kind of like how I say with the Wild defensemen, you can play any of the 4 of them if you have a preference. You play them. For me, it would be Savard, then Chernak, then McDonough. On the Carolina side, I think, Pesce, Slavin, or Brady Shea are guys that I would consider one-offing.
For anybody watching out there, Josh has been practicing a Joe Pesci impression for like 24 hours now, and he won't do it on the show. And it's kind of frustrating me, but I don't want to put him in an awkward spot, so we're just going to let it go for today.
If you ever seen the video, because I'm originally from New York, so I have that accent. I hide it when I'm on the show. If you ever seen the YouTube video, my new haircut, like, I start good with Pesci, but it turns right into my new haircut guy. So if you haven't seen that, YouTube it. You'll know why.
So anyways, between here and the end of the season, we're going to keep egging Josh on to give us his Joe Pesci impression. Before we forget, I imagine I'm not even going to ask you about $8,000 McElhinney. Would you have interest in a 7,400 Nedeljkovic, or is that a little bit too expensive?
I was actually interested in using the Nedeljkovic yesterday if he was in. So yeah, I have some interest in him tonight. It does worry me that the team is on a back-to-back and Necas may be out, so they may not just care. But yeah, at 7,400, I have to consider him.
Yep, I completely agree with you there. We've got a massive UFC card coming up next Saturday. Usman versus Masvidal is set for April 24th. And we here at Awesemo are giving you a great deal on an Awesemo Plus MMA monthly pass. Get 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus MMA when you use the promo code UFC261. That's $14.95 for 30 days of Awesemo Plus MMA. This package includes full access to our fighter projections, ownership projections, top fighters tool, lineup builder, and the premium Slack channel. This offer is valid through Saturday, April 24th. That's this coming Saturday. So head on over to Awesemo.com, sign up for Awesemo Plus MMA with a promo code UFC261, and you'll get for 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus MMA. All right, let's move it along. Columbus Blue Jackets, 2.3 implied goal total going into Florida. The Florida Panthers have a 3.3 implied goal total. Judas Korpisalo confirmed for Columbus. Spencer Knight going for Florida. That is very interesting for a number of reasons. The first one being he's supposed to be their goaltender of the future. And he was only, I think he was only drafted last year. Was it 2020 he was drafted or 2019? Anyways,
they signed Bob to that ginormous contract.
Yeah, so it was 2019. Yeah, 2019. So he's only 20 years old. He was a first-round pick. A couple great years in Boston College. He's supposed, like I said, he's supposed to be their next big. He's supposed to be their next goalie. That's why they drafted him 13th overall in 2019. But it is his first professional hockey game, like ever. He hasn't played in the AHL, no ECHL, nothing like that. He's going straight from college into the NHL. So, like, I should mention Max Domi's healthy scratch again here tonight. Anyways, so like, I don't want to just be like, I'm going to avoid Columbus like I do almost every night because there's almost no point in ever playing Columbus. But I also don't want to avoid Columbus because, like, yes, he's supposed to be the goalie of the future. Yes, he's supposed to be great, et cetera, et cetera. But this is still a 20-year-old goalie who's never played a professional hockey game before. So I'm kind of torn on what to do with this game. So why don't you try to lead me to the light here, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, Spencer Knight has played, some high international tournaments, though. So, I mean, he's probably been in some pressure spots before. This may be different, your first pro game. You see guys like make their first MLB start and they can't get out of the first inning, something like that. You got to keep it in the back of your mind. But, like, if there's ever a matchup to get your first NHL start, it is a Torts-led Blue Jackets team. And he's 6,500 on FanDuel. So if you're playing on FanDuel, I think you definitely can play him. 7,900 on DraftKings, maybe a tougher pill to swallow. Let's start with the Panthers. We were on them last night, or I was. A lot of people were, their ownership. Vots is watching. He'll make fun of me for saying we. We love to see it, Vots. You go back to that top line. I wish it was anyone but Mason Marchment. I keep saying that, but what you can do is you lock in Barkov and Gusev, and you mix up Huberdeau and Hornquist. Hornquist still wildly overpriced on the third line, 7,100. He's going to be low owned, so you can put them in. And then that second line looked good last night. The Huberdeau, Bennett, Duclair, and the third line looked good. Vetrano, Wenberg, Hornquist. But I think what I want to go back to doing is put in Barkov, Gusev, and mix and match with Huberdeau and Hornquist. On the Jacket side, Max Domi's out again. So I'd imagine the line stays similar. If that's the case, I do have some interest in that top line in MME, Bjorkstrand, Roslovic, Atkinson. Also, if you want a one-off Patrick Laine, at his price, I think, he has the upside. We haven't seen it in Columbus, but he does have the upside on the power play to score multiple goals. So maybe at that price, you take a couple chances on him. This was Bobrovsky or Dridger. I'd completely be off the Blue Jackets, but because it's Spencer Knight in his first pro game, I think you have to consider, Blue Jackets in MME.
Yeah, I want to play Atkinson, Roslovic, Bjorkstrand. I really genuinely do. I'm with you. I want to play that line in this matchup here tonight. I can't trust Torts. I just can't do it. There's something in my brain right here that's telling me don't ever play a player coached by John Tortorella. And the thing is, that's one of the lines that's actually been staying together. So I think there is merit to playing them. especially with Mackenzie Weegar and Aaron Ekblad both out. Like Florida's missing their top pair, and their top pair are by far their two best defensemen. So like, I think I might get to a point where I'm going to play some one-off, maybe one-off Bjorkstrand or one-off Atkinson or something like that. And I think I'm on the Florida side. I'd probably prefer the second line. Like they're going to go into that Tessier Line A matchup, and we talk about it all the time. Any line that Line A is on sinks them defensively. And you saw that last night. Think about this. A line with Sam Bennett as the center ran over them. Like Sam Bennett could barely stay on the fourth line for Calgary. He goes to the second line for Florida, and they run over Patrick Laine's line. So, like, I like that Florida 2 line. It's just the problem is there isn't a ton of correlation there. So I think it's more one-offing from Florida 2. So, like, I think this is a game where I might be the only duo I really like is Barkov and Gusev. The rest of the time, it'd be like one-off Bjorkstrand, one-off Duclair, one-off Bennett, like something like that. I think this is a game I'm going to be picking one-offs from rather than full stacks. On the blue line, like there just isn't a lot on either side that I really like here. Like I know people will play Jones and Del Zotto because of ice time. I guess that's fine. Gustav Forsling, I should say, excuse me, pardon me. He's always in play. Any defenseman here that you like in particular?
Not really. I mean, Strawman on the top pair, Min Price. I guess I was hoping Brandon Montour would get some power play one time over Yandel, who's just a bag of bones at this point. But, you know, I guess that's a wait and see. So I don't really like the defenseman on either side in this game.
How about in goal? Spencer Knight, 7,900 on DK. I think that's a pretty easy fade. I think he's super cheap over on FanDuel. So
Min Price, 6,500 on FanDuel. I think FanDuel, you play him. DK, you fade him.
Are you worried about ownership though on FanDuel, like at that price?
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, at that price, like where goalies go up to like 9,000 on FanDuel, I think you take the savings if you need it to get in your guys.
Yep. Okay. Fair enough. Can't disagree with that logic whatsoever. All right. Next game, we got the New Jersey Devils going into Pittsburgh. New Jersey's carrying a 2.3 implied goal total. The Penguins are sitting at 3.7. Mackenzie Blackwood looks like he has an injury, so he won't be starting tonight. It's going to probably be Scott Wedgwood, but they haven't confirmed that yet. Tristan Jarry in for Pittsburgh. All right. Ty Smith is out tonight as well. Will Butcher is in. The assumption is that Will Butcher would take the Ty Smith's power play minutes as well. So that's something pretty important to keep note of. Obviously there's one super obvious line here. One line that is going to be probably among the top 3 owned lines. So why don't you talk about that line first and then dig into the rest and see where else you might want to go.
Yeah, I see the ownership on Pit 1. It's over 20%. Now, am I going to tempt fate and fade another chalk line like I did with Calgary yesterday? Yes. Because if they're going to match up with that Hughes Sharon Govich line, that line has been so good for the Devils. They ran over the Rangers over the weekend. Now, that's not really saying much. Like, the Rangers' top line is good, but it's not elite Crosby good. But they like shut them out good over the weekend. So, like, at 20%, yeah, at a 3.7 total, if you want to play them, sure. If it was Blackwood, I would completely fade them. But if it's what's giving me pause is Wedgwood or Aaron Dell. Like, you don't mess up Aaron. Like, the goalies are just so bad. Like, I don't know. I think I'm still going to fade him. We just got an ownership run redone, and their ownership went up. They're probably like the most elite. They're the elite line on the slate tonight. So, like, I totally get it if you want to go all in on them. Personally, I'm going to fade them and just hope that chalk line doesn't crush me and the Hughes, Sharon Govich line keeps them in check. Where I like Pittsburgh tonight is the second line, McCann, Carter, Zucker. They're going to get, Andreas Janssen and Heischer. And Heischer just coming back from injury. Andreas Janssen's had a terrible season. So, I really like the second line. If, McCann's on power play 1, I really, it's funny because it's a Jeff Carter line, but like, I think, McCann has been great since Malkin has gone out. If it gets you, exposure to a really high total, it gets you off that chalky line. They're going to come in way under owned. They're in a better matchup. So I really like this Pitt second line. McCann's on the top power play. You get Carter and Zucker on the secondary power play. So yeah, that's where I'm going to go for Pittsburgh. On the Devils side, I really like that top line, but it's just tough in the Crosby matchup. Like, they've been so good at generating chances, but this is one of the toughest matchups they have. So it does give me some pause. If you're making, I don't know what the MME is, like 90 max, 100 max at this point. If you're making around 100, I think you can have a handful of NJ1 for sure. Like, they didn't score against the Rangers, but they outchanced them badly. So I think you can have a little bit there because they're super cheap. Their price lets you fit in anyone you want. And then going down the lineup, I don't really like much of their depth. If you want to one-off a Heischer, he's a little pricey for me. So I think, I may one-off a Miles Morningwood. He may rise up at 4,200 on the top power play. So, yeah, that's where I go for the Devils. But this is a Pitt 2 game for me.
I actually can't believe you said that. Yeah, Miles Wood was the guy I was looking at from the New Jersey depth. I agree with you. That Quoken and Sharon Govich Hughes line has been really good. One thing that, like, it looks like Jack Hughes got benched last game. I don't know if it was a benching or an injury. I'm sure chat will tell us. And they had morning skate today, but they didn't. And Hughes was off the line, and they didn't have morning skate today, or they had morning skate. It's just the beat writers didn't provide lines. So just watch that lines could be different at warm up because we don't have lines from this morning. But I agree with you. That line for New Jersey has been really good. The thing is they're coming in over-owned, which I couldn't believe. I look at our ownership run. We have them 4.4% top 2 stack, 4.9% ownership share. Like, it's fine to use them. Like, if the top 2 stack is 4.5%, they come in at 5%. Like, that's fine. But more people are going to be on New Jersey than I would like. So, like, I think I wouldn't say no to using a 5% line. I just think that there may be more people on them than we realize, especially where they're so cheap. So I might be out on New Jersey here. I like that Pittsburgh 2 call. I actually had them written down mostly because of their price. It's something we talk about often on this show. If you have a team in a great spot with a high total like Pittsburgh is tonight, a good way to avoid ownership is to jump down the lineup. So a full Pittsburgh 2 stack is a good way to avoid that heavy ownership. So I don't mind doing that. I think a good way to get a bit different here tonight is just full on Pittsburgh power play stack. Pittsburgh's power play has been really, really good of late. Pittsburgh has been top 5 over the last 3 weeks, which has been basically the entire span without getting Malkin. And over those 3 weeks, New Jersey is dead last in the NHL on the penalty kill in almost every respect. So another way, if you want to get different, is just full on Pittsburgh power play stack. So I agree with you on Pittsburgh 2. I just think myself personally here, the way I'm building lineups tonight, I might just full power play Pittsburgh 1. Full power play stack Pittsburgh 1, I should say. On the blue line, old Mikey Matheson is a guy that always jumps out to me for the Penguins. Still under 4K, which I find reasonable in this matchup. Will Butcher probably getting PP1 minutes for New Jersey is interesting to me. Is there anybody else that's jumping out here?
Not really. I mean, I agree with Matheson, especially if you're using Pitt 2. He correlates with Carter and Zucker quite well. Letang, obviously, if you're using Pitt power play. Severson's okay, but unless you're using NJ1 for like power play with Butcher, I think I'm going to be off the Devils defenseman.
Okay. In net, I'm probably not using either goalie. Like, I think there's a case to be made for Wedgwood or Dell if it's Weddell because they're 7,000 or 6,800. So I think there's a case, especially where Pitt, between Pitt 1 and Pitt 2, you might see a third of entries have some sort of Pittsburgh stack. So I don't have a problem using the New Jersey goalie, but I'm probably going to be off both goalies in this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, a few seasons ago, I was beating the drum for Aaron Dell to be the starting Sharks goalie over Marty Jones, but that's more of an indictment on Marty Jones than it is how good Aaron Dell is. So, yeah, if you want to use Dell and NJ correlated lineups, if it is him, he's under 7,000. Other than that, I have no interest in Yari at 83.
All right. I agree with you completely on Jerry, at least. All right. Before we get moving, we have free stuff up on the website today, like we usually do. We have free stuff almost every day. So free premium content up on Awesemo.com for today. We have MLB ownership. We have golfer rankings. We have NHL player and stack rankings, and we have NBA player rankings. So if you need help with MLB, PGA, NHL, NBA, we've got some free stuff up on the site to give you guys a little leg up. And don't forget, if you're not able to catch our Awesemo YouTube shows, just head on over to awesemo.com/podcast to check out all our podcasts. Most of them, except for the live before locks, go up there so you can get them wherever you get your podcasts. Just check out awesemo.com/podcast for the latest. All right, we got 3 games left. Let's get to this first one. A replay from last night. Detroit 2.1 implied goal total going into Dallas. Dallas has a 3.3 implied goal total. Like we talked about earlier, Dallas did the thing last night and got some players there for us. How do you see tonight's game going?
Worries me about Rope Hintz. It's a back-to-back. So I don't want to say he's going to be out, but I'm treating Dallas like he's going to be out. We won't know until 8 o'clock. It's not a lock right at 7:30 or at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's an 8:30 p.m. Eastern game. I don't remember the last time Rope played a back-to-back, so it does worry me a little bit. And his price is $6,600, so it's like not like you could just be like, oh, I'm going to swap to Jamie Benn. There's only a $200 price difference. It's a big price difference, so it does concern me that Rope is going to be out, but that may depress their ownership, and it's still a very good spot. Like, I don't know if the Wings are going to go 11-7 again. Verana might be back in, but if Verana's back in, he moves to that top line, then they'll for sure get the Radek Vaska line. So that just takes me out on the Wings. If Rope is in, I like Dallas 1. If Rope is out, I like Dallas 1 if it is Ben who moves up. But it could also be like Dickinson or something like that. We just don't know. It's one of those things where, like, I want to play them, but, like, there's not exactly an easy swap unless you want to, like, swap to the Canucks, which is a conundrum in itself. Unless you have, like, a swap to LA1, something like that, maybe you can do that, but I don't know. I may, like, if I was MMEing, I would definitely build some Dallas Star lineups with Hintz in, but just have some swaps ready. Like, if you see he's out in warmups, if you want to put Ben in an upgraded defenseman, or you want, some Kings 1 or something else, like just have that ready, because I'm not sure he's going to be in. So really this game is just Dallas 1, maybe some Ben Gurionov. If Verana's in, I kind of like that Fosca line as a filler. They're going to be, almost non-existent ownership. They'll get some minutes. They're kind of like Joel Eriksson Ek light. They're not great offensively, but they're not bad. And they really control the puck, so they will generate some chances, and it is the Wings.
Yeah, it is Detroit. The game time decisions are really messing me up here, because you're right. If I knew Verana was going to play with Larkin, I would actually have interest in Detroit 1, even with that Fox matchup. If I knew that Hintz would be in, I'd have a lot of interest in Dallas 1. But those are just things that we just don't know right now. Interesting note between Dallas 1 and Dallas 2. Even though it's a smaller sample, Dallas 2 has been playing exceptionally well. Like the Ben Dickinson Gurianov line. 3.1 expected goals for per 60 minutes, 5.4 actual goals for per 60 minutes. Now, like I said, it's a small sample. We're talking about maybe 4 games worth of ice time, but they've been playing really well. And against Detroit, you're going to get depth matchups from the Red Wings, and we're 3 weeks left in the season, and Detroit's a lottery team. Their depth matchups are basically AHL matchups at this point. So I really like Dallas, both their first and second lines. I'm not as big on the third line. as you are, but I really do like the first and second lines. I just don't know how to play him. And like you talk about the swaps, like I think Dallas one is about 20K, a little under 20K in total, and LA one is considerably cheaper, like 18K. So like you can swap to them, but you're going to be leaving, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 on the table. So that's kind of the tough thing here, is that if you play Hintz and he's out, you're kind of boned. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to go to Toronto and probably play a broken line or a PP2 stack or something like that. So like that's the danger of playing any Dallas here tonight. I think I'm going to take the risk. I think it's worth it because I think there are some Toronto swaps that I can make. We're going to talk about that game in a second. So I'm going to be in on Dallas 2 here tonight, or Dallas 1, sorry. Okay. I don't have any problem playing Dallas 2. Both lines are fine. On the blue line, Heiskanen, I'm always on the Heiskanen train as a one-off. Esa Lindell has been playing more than John Klingberg of late, though. And Lindell is a guy that can both shoot and block shots. What do you like for defensemen in this one?
Yeah, I like Heiskanen. Klingberg's more of the guy like I'd use on the power play stacks. I know Heiskanen's on there too, and he's a little bit more – he's cheaper than Klingberg, but Klingberg's the one who really will shoot the puck on the power play. Heiskanen's more of a one-off for me. Lindell, if you're using Dallas 2 or as a one-off, I really like. On the wing side, there is not much there, and I probably am going to be off them.
I kind of agree with that. Looking in goal, Jake Ottinger starting. Nobody projected for the Red Wings. I think it was Grice last night, if I'm not mistaken. So it'd probably be Bernier here tonight. I don't mind playing Bernier, like truthfully, especially where he's coming in, where he's 7,200. I think he's the cheap goalie I might use tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Bernier is definitely the better goalie on the team. Hintz may be out. Those lines may be jumbled. So I think you can definitely play some Bernier. Ottinger at 8,200, it's going to be a pass.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that. All right. Next game coming up, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs with a 3.7 implied goal total going into Vancouver. Vancouver with a 2.3 implied goal total. Everybody saw Vancouver beat this Leafs team a couple of days ago in one of the funniest games I've been able to watch this year. It was just so much fun to watch. Big news. Willie Nylander was supposed to be out tonight as a team punishment for missing a meeting, but the coach said that he's actually going to be in. So I guess he's coming in on the second line. He'll be back on the top power play unit. Ilya Mikheyev, day-to-day for Toronto. Rasmus Sandin, game time decision. All right. Oh, Alex Edler suspended for that hit on Zach Hyman, and Zach Hyman also injured. This is a mess. What do you like?
Yeah, this game is just wildly bad. It's funny because like everyone on what was it Sunday was like, oh, the Leafs are going to win 13-1, and we both were like, yeah, this is a game. Like,
yeah, do you guys remember this team losing to the Zamboni driver? Like, come on.
It was funny because like they just would not shoot the puck from the slot.
No,
I don't know what they were doing.
So many times they would have the puck and try to make a 5-foot pass to create a different shooting angle, and it just blew up in their face every time. Anyways,
puck on net, and it's probably going to be Braden Holtby again. So like he's just not good. Edler's out, so like Tyler Myers may not leave the ice at all. Like you're going to have to like scoop him up with the ice scrapers at the end of the game. But yeah, like for Toronto, I think top line obviously makes sense. You want a power play stack, that makes some sense. Like you want a power play stack and leave off Riley, that's fine. Riley, has anyone played more empty power play minutes than Morgan Riley this season? I can't.
Not a power play one defenseman, that's for sure.
Yeah, maybe Kevin Shattenkirk, but everything's empty on the Ducks. Like Morgan Riley should be having a great season. Like he's just not. Like he's having a bad season. So like I don't mind doing Toronto 1. I don't mind doing like a Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, Galchenyuk. 5-man, you can leave off Galchenyuk. You want a 4-man. The power play wingers, that's fine. I don't mind that second line too. Nicholas Robertson, he's kind of I don't want to say like a fan favorite, but he is one of the guys on the Leafs that we like to play. There it is again, Vots. Clip it. We love to see it. Nicholas Robertson, min price, but he brings down the price on that second line. Tavares, Nylander, power play 1. The Canucks are still really banged up from COVID. I'm not really sure why they're continuing with the season. I mean, I do know why. It's all money. Money drives the bus, but they're going to finish it out. So I really like that Leafs top line, Leafs second line, Leafs power play. On the Canucks side, it's just, I don't know. The lines as they're constituted, I just don't like them. Hyman is out. I don't know. If you want to do a 2-man Miller Besser, it's a little bit pricey, and they may be a bit overowned. The Canucks ownership all season has been way higher than it should be, and it drives me bananas because they have they have a 2.3 total, so it's not great. If you want to use one off Horvat or 2-man with Pearson, but their ownership's 8-9%. It shouldn't be that high. If they're 3-4%, I probably have some, but in 2.3 total at that ownership, I'm probably going to be off the Canucks skaters at least. There's going to be some defensemen that I like because the minutes, but as the lines, probably going to be off them.
Yeah, I'm off Vancouver entirely in this game. They didn't even let's face facts. They didn't look good in that game on Sunday. They got ran over. It's just Braden Holtby played out of his mind, and that happens sometimes playing hockey. And without Alex Edler, probably their best defenseman right now, this is probably going to go very poorly here tonight. I don't even have a problem Toronto power play stacking. If you want to use just the super expensive 4 Toronto forwards and then look for a dumpster diving stack elsewhere, I have no problem with something like that too. I think this game is all about Toronto. So I will say I do like Toronto too. I think, we slag on Tavares quite a bit, and he hasn't had a great season, but I think he has really come around over the last month or so. I wrote it up last week at Dobber Hockey, where I write about season-long hockey, how his individual expected goals has starting to climb, at his career norms. He's starting to shoot the puck, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't mind that Toronto second line, and I'm going to use the narrative of Willie Nylander sleeping through a team meeting to give him some extra incentive to score here tonight. On the blue line, I think Tyler Myers is absolutely in play at 4,500. He has to play 30 minutes. He might end up blocking more shots than Vancouver has shots on goal here tonight. So I do like Tyler Myers, 4,500. On the Toronto side, remember they said Rasmus Sandin is a game time decision. So watch for the Toronto Blue Liners. There really isn't anybody on the Toronto Blue Line that I want to use. If I was going to use anybody, I would just go all the way down to Brody or Hull or something like that. I don't like paying over $5,000 for Toronto defensemen.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to put in Riley with the power play, go for it. Not something I'm particularly interested in doing. And after that, Muzzin's too expensive for me. So I'm probably off the Leafs defenseman.
Yeah, I like that. We love celebrating subscriber success here at Awesemo. If you bank some bigger contests, send your screenshot to our Awesemo Hoff account or to any of our Awesemo social accounts showing your bank with the Awesemo avatar on your DFS profile, and we'll be sure to shout you out. If it's a top 3 in a contest with over 5,000 entries, you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, provided you have that avatar in your DFS profile. Just hit up awesemo.com/announcement/avatar for full details. All you have to do is just get a top 3 in a big contest with our avatar, and you have a chance to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Compounding winning with winning. We love to see that, don't we, folks? All right, final game. Anaheim, 2.5 implied goal total going into Los Angeles. The Kings have a 2.9 implied goal total. The one big note here is that the Kings have been off for a week. They had a couple games against Colorado. Colorado had their games postponed for COVID issues, obviously. So the Kings have been off for a week, but it hasn't been their own COVID issues. It's just the way that the schedule has had to work out. So they've effectively just been resting for the last 5 or 6 days. What do you like in this one?
Not much. This game is pretty brutal. It's a 5.5 total. It's the Ducks. If you want to go to that top line, I would have liked the Kings top line more if they're fully correlated on the top power play. Maybe they go back to that. I just know before their little, retreat, Iafallo and Brown were on the second power play. They're kind of mixing it up. But, if they're back on the top power play, I don't mind them, especially if you need to swap off of Dallas 1 if Hintz is out. I think you can go to Kings 1. Other than that, like maybe an Adrian Kempe one off, but I really don't have much interest in the Kings tonight other than that top line. On the Ducks side, Kopitar is probably going to get the Henry Kynan Silfverberg matchup. The Kopitar matchup isn't what it was, but that, with the ice time the Ducks have with their skaters, it takes me off that line. If I was going to use a line on the Ducks, it would be Comtois, Steele, and Raquel. They're going to get depth of the Kings, which can be had. They're not very good defensively. If it is quick and net, that makes me like them a little bit more. You don't have to play Steele, but, Comtois, Raquel, two-man is quite nice. I know Niehaus is going to be excited to hear that and lock him right in. But this game doesn't really interest me too much. There might be some stuff on the blue line that I like, but as the lines on both sides, I'm not a huge fan of this game.
Yeah, I will say you're right. They did split up the power play. The LA Kings won guys on the power play, but I love this LA Kings matchup. I think it's a great matchup. That Henrik Silfverberg line under 40% expected goal share. I really, really like Kings 1 here. The problem is they're just split up on the PP. That's kind of the issue. But they're cheap enough to use, so I'm fine using Kings 1. All right, Josh, we're going to wrap it up here. I'm going to ask you for your hat trick pick for this evening. My hat trick pick coming from the Pittsburgh Penguins. I can't believe I'm saying this because I've used him twice, and I don't think he has a goal yet. But third time's a charm, Jake Guentzel. What do you have?
I'm going to say Willie Nylander.
Billy Nylander. All right. You heard it here. Jake Guentzel and Billy Nylander are your hat trick picks. Make sure to like and subscribe. Subscriptions really help. Good luck out there tonight, everybody. And we will see you again here tomorrow.
Forever so tomorrow.